You're listening to the New Jersey Real Estate Investor Podcast. We talk about all topics related to being a real estate investor in the Garden State, based on our experiences with buying, selling, managing, and building rentals. So together, we can all be better investors. Now, here is your host, Pete Tverdov.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the New Jersey Real Estate Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Pete Tverdov. And today we are going to talk about how to buy your first rental property. So if you're listening to this episode, chances are you are probably a newbie, which is totally okay. I'm going to kind of walk you through how to buy your first rental. And hopefully by the end of this podcast, you're going to have a really good idea of what you need to do in order to buy a rental property. So I did come up with a couple of notes here that I am going to go through for you guys. And what I will tell you is I have a tremendous amount of experience helping people to purchase, buy, and hold real estate. That's really the heart of Tverdov Housing. We deal with real estate investors who mainly buy and hold. So I come to you guys with a wealth of knowledge, and I hope you sharpen your pencils and pay attention. And frankly, most of you who wind up listening to this are probably not even going to take my advice, even though it's gold. And you're going to go back to scrolling on Facebook and Instagram and stuffing your face with potato chips and watching TV. But some of you will say, you know what, this guy really knows what he's talking about. And you're going to be ready to move forward and purchase your first rental property. So to begin, what I would say is the first question you have to answer is, why do you even want to own rental property? And I've come across clients who do this for many reasons. Now, the obvious one is it's an investment, right? Like it's maybe you want to diversify your investments, right? So maybe you invest in stock or businesses or cryptocurrency, I guess, or so on and so forth. So you want to diversify your portfolio. So a lot of people do it for investment purposes, which is cool. Within that, you have to ask yourself, okay, do I want cash flow or do I care more about equity appreciation? Because they are two entirely different things. And certain markets in New Jersey, there really is no cash flow when you purchase the rentals. It's more of an equity appreciation play. In other markets, there is cash flow available, and the equity does not appreciate as hard and fast as it would in other towns. So that's the first question you have to ask, is the why. So one option is investment. Another popular one, especially with younger people, is they want to live in a unit. So they want to buy a 2, 3, or 4 family house. They want to live in one unit and rent out the other. This is a very good strategy to use. I personally used this when I first got started. And it was before Brandon Turner at Bigger Pockets pretended like he invented this, which he did not. Bigger Pockets calls it house hacking. Please do not say house hacking around me. I just cannot stand how Bigger Pockets pretended like they invented this, and they didn't. And for those of you who don't know, it's actually a really helpful website, biggerpockets.com. I'm plugging it. There's they have forums. And it's almost like Reddit for real estate investors. That's the best way I could put it. But anyway, living in one unit and renting out another is really popular. That kind of helps you get your foot in the door. Most people do that with an FHA loan. They only have to put 3.5% down or maybe 5% down. And that's a great way. And then another reason why people might purchase rental properties for taxes. I've had clients come up to me and they say, hey, Pete, look, I make a lot of money. I'm a doctor. I'm a dentist. I'm an attorney. I'm getting slaughtered with taxes. Or it's somebody who works on Wall Street. They work at a private equity firm. They make, $500,000 a year, $750,000 a year, but they're in the highest income bracket. So 50% of their paycheck goes towards taxes. So they're like, Pete, I just need a write-off, right? So they come to me with that as well. So the first question you have to ask is why you're buying a rental property. That's what you have to ask yourself. And so once you have an idea of the why, the second question is where. And this is a very important one because I ask these qualifying questions to people who come to me and I want to buy real estate. And I'm like, okay, cool. Where? Anywhere you think is good, Pete. I'm like, well, that doesn't work because where I might think is good, that might not work for you, right? So you listening to this, you need to figure out where is this going to be. Now, some tips I could give you is invest in a place you're familiar with. So maybe you work in that area, or maybe your family lives in that area, or maybe you grew up in that area. Don't invest somewhere because you read it online or saw it on a TikTok video or Instagram. That's not going to help you. You need to be familiar with the area, because you have to be careful with the realtors that you choose, because, like for me, when I was first starting out, and still this day, I don't exactly trust people, but you have to be careful, because a person in a sales role, their job is to what, guys? Sell and get a commission. So at the end of the day, if your investment bombs, from their perspective, it might not be their problem. Now, what I could tell you is me, when I'm wearing my realtor hat right now. When I work with real estate investors, I want it to succeed because I want you to do repeat business with me. So honestly, when I do work with clients looking to purchase, buy, and hold, I'm brutally honest with some of the houses that people send me. I'll say, hey, look, that area is garbage. This house needs a ton of work. And then on the flip side, I'll say, look, this is a really good opportunity. We have to be aggressive. We need to win this one. This is a great opportunity for you. So with respect to where, I have some clients who they're like, Pete, I only want to be, near hospitals, towns that have hospitals in them. Okay. Pete, it has to be on the train line, the NJ Transit train line. Okay, cool. That works. Pete, I only want to be in Essex County. Or, Pete, the towns I'm looking at are, I'm making this up, Perth Amboy, New Brunswick, Elizabeth, Rahway, and Linden. Okay, great. Now I know, because there's so much out there. If you're like, oh, I'll look anywhere in North Jersey or anywhere in Central Jersey, you're never really going to find anything, because the more you could narrow your focus, then you begin to be able to study the market, and you see what trades in those towns and how often stuff comes up for sale, or conversely, how often it does not come up for sale, right? So if you're looking for two-family houses, for example, you are going to find a lot more two-family houses for sale in Elizabeth than you are in Somerville. All right. And so you need to know that, because if you don't, and you're looking anywhere and something comes up in Somerville, you might gloss over it. Whereas I'm looking at, as your agent, dude, these don't come up often. You want a nice town, let's go look at this. Right. So that's just a very brief example. And the other reason why you need to know the where, and this is kind of rolling into my next point, are you going to self-manage, or are you going to hire a property manager to take care of the property? And, at the end of the day, you can self-manage. You just need to know that you may have bought yourself a job, right? Because a lot of people think real estate investing is passive. And if you're self-managing, it's not. Sometimes it is, right? There's no problems. And there's not a problem with the house until it becomes a problem. And then it's a pain in the butt, and it's never at the most convenient time. It's on Easter Sunday, it's on Super Bowl Sunday, it's on Christmas, it's on Thanksgiving. It's at 1 o'clock in the morning. These things happen sometimes, guys. So if you're going to self-manage and you're looking at stuff an hour and a half away from where you live, I want you to think about that for a second. Is that going to be ideal? How are you going to show the property when it comes up for rent? What are you going to do when the tenant calls you and says, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Landlord, I locked myself out of the apartment. Can you come over and let me in? What are you going to do if you have to inspect the property and it's an hour and a half away? So these are things you need to think about. So what I notice is people who do self-manage, they live a couple towns away, or they live in the town. So that's why I go back to my point of where you're going to invest. If you live in Wayne, for example, right? Patterson is right next door, right? So that's probably a little easier for you versus if you live in Freehold and you're like, yeah, I want to invest in Patterson. Okay, well, that's a hike. Okay, that's a hike if you have to get there and do something. So the where is very important, and self-managing is very important. And what I will say with self-managing is, if you are going to do that, we have a lot of videos on training people on how to be better landlords. A shameless plug, we also do property management. And what I will tell you, in this interest rate environment, if you are going to hire a property manager, you are going to need to pay cash for the property, or you're probably going to have to put 30, 40, or 50% down. Otherwise, you probably will not cash flow. And some people are okay with that. Because again, I go back to my first point, why you're investing, right? Some people don't care about the cash flow. They care about the appreciation. But if you need cash flow, you're going to have to put more money down in this current interest rate environment, or you're going to have to self-manage. That's just those 2 points. So now I know this has been a lot to unpack so far, right? Like I'm probably hitting you with a lot of different stuff here. But all those are very, very important points. Okay. Now, what I will say is I've been doing this, I've been an investor over 10 years now, and we've been in business like almost 8 years, I guess, which is crazy. Wow. And what I will tell you is whenever I work with people, I want to make sure when they're buying a rental property that they're going to be successful, that they're going to be set up for success. And what I will tell you is a lot of the clients I work with, they become repeat clients, which is pretty cool. And I've been able to help quite a few clients build rental portfolios, which is really awesome to see. And and so, like some of them, we've also managed the property for them. And then some clients, we've also done the construction for them. We do that too. So some clients, like we've helped them gut renovate places or build additions, or just do something small like a new kitchen, a new bathroom, flooring, paint in the apartment when somebody moves out. So what's been exciting for me is we have helped people make a lot of money. And that's what I've personally gotten really good at, is just helping people to build wealth. And that's kind of what this podcast is all about, and that's what this show is all about. So if you're sitting here looking to buy your first rental property, and you have dreams of all this stuff that the internet sells you, like just take it one step at a time, follow some of these steps, and I promise I will get you there. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Now, one thing we have not talked about is the type of property. So what type of property are you going to be targeting? So if you think about it, you're probably sitting here listening, you're like, man, I have a lot to focus on. Like Pete's telling me I need to know where, I want to invest. Do I want to self-manage? And now I need to know what type of property. So what I will tell you is these are the 5 types of properties I typically see people targeting when they want to do buy and hold. The most common is multifamily. It's someone who wants to buy a 2, 3, or 4 family house. Okay. And some people want to live in those units, and other people are just like, it's just a pure investment. Actually, most people, they just purely want to own it as an investment. I don't come across as many people as you would think who want to live in one of those units. And what I will tell you with multifamily is I come across 3 types of multifamily properties, and we're talking 2 to 4 units. The first is new construction, extremely rare. You typically find it in like Newark, Elizabeth, a little bit of Linden, like East Orange, Patterson. Very rare to buy new construction multifamily. And it's priced that way too. They're usually on the low end, they're probably like 800 to 850. And on the high end, I've seen them as high as 1.5 million in like really nice towns. And it's like a 4-family house. The second type of multifamily that I see is just a disaster inside. It's a complete dump. It looks like a dump. It smells like a dump. And it is a dump. And those are good opportunities. They need a lot of work. The trick is having the opportunity to be able to do the work. Sometimes they're vacant. Sometimes they have tenants with them. Those are good opportunities. And then the third type is just like a multifamily that's kind of like a tired landlord. It's not horrible, but it's going to need some work. Like the kitchens are old, the bathrooms are old. It needs paint. It needs flooring. Probably needs new siding. The roof has seen better days, but it's not like a 6-figure renovation. Okay. So I see a lot of that in the multifamily space. The other type of investment is single family. And I've done an entire podcast episode on this. I think it was actually our first one. And in a nutshell, I really do not recommend you go down that route, because single family homes are not rental properties. Okay. I have a couple of clients who just buy single families as rentals. It's because they got it at like a really discounted price, or they bought it at like the sheriff auction 15 years ago. In today's market, it's incredibly difficult to buy a single family home off the MLS and be like, yeah, I'm going to rent this and it's going to cash flow. It's just, I don't recommend you doing that. The other popular ones I see, not as much, but I see people, they'll buy a townhome, they'll buy a condo, usually like a 1, 2, or 3 bedroom unit. And most of the time, the people have lived there, and then they call us up at Tverdov and they're like, hey, can you guys manage this for us? I'm moving to Maryland, I'm moving to Texas, I'm moving wherever, and I don't want to sell it because my rate's 3%, but can you manage it for us? So we do come across that. If you're looking to just purchase a townhome or condo as an outright real estate investment, it kind of pencils out similar to single family, where I'll tell you, you're likely going to be self-managing it, or you're going to have to put a lot of money down, because you also have the HOA to factor in, and that eats into your cash flow. And on the low end, I see HOA at like $400 a month, and at the high end, I mean, gosh, I've seen like $700 or $800 a month, right? So, but those are popular because townhomes and condos are also newer. So knock on wood, there's like less problems with the asset if you're going to purchase it. And usually it's a little bit lower barrier to entry. So, like a cheaper townhome or condo in like the Middlesex County area is like, 400 grand, 350, 450, something like that. So it's a little bit easier to get into that market. And then the fifth type, the least common that I personally see, is commercial. And I personally do not see it as much because I don't really specialize in that area. Commercial is an entirely different world. I have helped clients, buy like some small mixed use, small, retail shops. But, if you're looking for larger commercial, like, 5 million and up, 10 plus units, you typically deal with a commercial broker, which is not me. I'm not a jack of all trades. I kind of stay in my lane with what I'm good at. But that's another type of asset you can buy. Now, people do like commercial because you could get triple net leases, and which basically means the tenants pay for everything, and you as the landlord are just responsible for the four walls and the roof. So people like that because it's very low headache. Commercial tenants are way different. They're just way easier to work with versus a residential tenant. Because in the leases, like with commercial, the lease is everything. So like if something goes wrong, you just look at the lease, like, nope, I'm sorry, there was a sewage backup, but it says like you're responsible for everything inside the unit. The sewage backup is your problem. And that's kind of it. So that's why, some people like commercial. So to keep it simple for you, if you're a newbie listening to this, I always recommend multifamily. That's in my opinion, the best type of investment. And the reason being is, you have multiple units. So even if a unit goes vacant, you still have some cash flow coming in, which is nice. They are very desirable for people to purchase. So when you go to exit, you're going to have probably a pretty smooth exit when you want to sell it. And they're even harder to build than single family homes are, because a lot of towns, they're not like creating new multifamily zones in their towns. A lot of towns, multifamily is completely grandfathered in, and it's like by railroad tracks, or it's in like an industrial area, or it's it's not in your typical neighborhood of suburbia. It's not like you see Center Hall Colonial, whoop, 2-family house. That's kind of not how it works, right? So a lot of towns make it a little challenging to build any more multifamily. So what I've noticed is they just become more and more desirable as the years have progressed. So those are some of the types of properties you should be looking at. And then, another question is, how much are you going to put down? And how much can you afford? Some people reach out to me and they say, hey, Pete, I could pay cash. Cool. That's really impressive, honestly. And great. That's fine, because they don't want any risk. They don't want a mortgage. Other people, they're on the other end of the spectrum. They're like, look, I'm 22. I just got like a really good job. I could put 3.5% down. I want to get an FHA loan. I'm like, okay, that's cool too. And then other people, they want to put 50% down or they want to put 20% down. If you're buying multifamily, typically the bare minimum you could put down is 20%. Spencer Savings Bank, which is a bank that I've personally used, so another plug with them, they will do 20% down multifamily loans. Really, honestly, a very good bank. And then most other, banks will be 25%. Actually, one of my preferred lenders, Joe, I think he's 20% as well. Joe Vitello with Cross Country, he's really good too. So they'll do 20%. And then if you're a first-time investor and you want to live in a unit, some banks will do 5% down. So if you have a little bit more than 3.5% and you could do 5%, that's super helpful because if you can, it's best to try to avoid having an FHA loan. And the reason why I say that is because FHA loans just have a couple more hoops to jump through. And from the seller's perspective, if they have multiple offers, they don't really want to be jumping through extra hoops with like another FHA inspection. Like this has to be fixed before closing. They don't want to be dealing with that. So that's just something I always suggest is it will make your offer a little bit stronger. Me in particular, usually most of the buyers I work with are, what I like to call like sophisticated investors or high net worth individuals. They are people who have, money, and they can put more money down. They're very serious. And basically, when you answer these questions, me as a realtor who works mostly with real estate investors, I could quickly find out if you're serious or not, right? Because if you've listened to this podcast and you've thought about these questions, you're going to say to me, okay, Pete, I want to invest in these 5 towns. I'm going to put 30% down. I'm going to put 50% down. I'm looking for townhomes or I'm looking for a strip mall or I'm looking for 2, 3, or 4 units. And then I'm like, okay, cool. Because now I have the mission and now I have an objective to find you that, right? So which kind of leads me into my last point, which I kind of already alluded to. But so my advice to you, if you're still listening at this point, pick 5 towns in New Jersey. And it might not even be 5. It might be 1 or it might be 3. But pick no more than 5. Pick what type of property you want. And then pick your budget. And yes, like you will have a budget, but you also need to get pre-approved from a bank. You need to talk to a lender. Reach out to me. I could put you in touch with my preferred lender, Joe Vitello. And we'll get you pre-approved. Because then we know, okay, Mary is pre-approved up to $750,000. Great. Mary, what towns do you want to look in? Well, Pete, I want to look in Westfield, New Providence, Scotch Plains, Summit, and Garwood. Okay. So you really like Union County, Mary? Yes, I like Union County, Pete. Okay, got it. So you want those 5 towns. You could pay up to $750,000. And what type of property do you want, Mary? I want multifamily. Great. Now I know what she's looking for, right? So now, like, I will be sending her this stuff, or I come across this stuff off market, and it makes it, number one, I know Mary's serious, and number 2, it makes it way more easy to identify what she's looking for. If you're not there yet, that's okay too, but you also have to come to terms with then you're not that serious yet either. And if you're not that serious yet, you can't be wasting someone's time, right? Because if you're serious and you're ready to purchase, then you're ready to purchase. So me, like whenever I've purchased in new markets, I've studied the market. I've known, I've researched like hell, and I've realized, okay, I want to be in this town or this city. Okay, but where in this town and in this city do I want to be in? Okay, I want to be on the west side of this city, or I want to be by the train station in this town. And then I just focus on one neighborhood in that town. Right? So think about how granular that is. And now I'm focused on that one area. And then I see stuff that comes on the market, right? And I'm researching it, and like, okay, this is what a 3-bedroom is selling for. This is what a 2-family is selling for. This is what a townhome is selling for. And after a while, you, as the client, begin to become a subject matter expert because you're just getting more and more data because it's so specific. And then all of a sudden, you're going to see stuff that seems out of whack. And like, wait a minute, what am I missing here? This seems like a good opportunity. Pete, can we go see this? That's how you buy your first rental property is by answering these questions and then becoming a subject matter expert. And then when you go to see the properties, don't get analysis paralysis is what I like to say. Like, don't overanalyze the property to the point where like you're indecisive. Like, you could feel it in your gut if you think it's a good opportunity or not. Yes, it's nerve-wracking. And yes, it's a big commitment. It's usually the biggest financial commitment people make. But that's why I go back to having a good team around you is so important. And so, me at Tverdov, I'm not the, like, yes, we have a brokerage. There's other realtors who work here, but like most of us focused on real estate investing. So, and like me in particular, I've basically dedicated my life to it at this point. So like, I'm not going to steer you wrong. We're going to walk through the door and I will tell you like, dude, this is a piece of garbage. Let's leave. I've done that with people. I'm like it's a 2-family house. We walk in the first floor and go through it. I turn and look at the client. I'm like, do you even want to go upstairs? Nah, Pete, let's get out of here. I'm like, okay, no problem. And that's helpful to you as the client because you're like, okay, this guy's got my back. He's not just trying to sell me any house. So having a good team is really important. Knowing what area you want to look in is really important. And just, kind of doing your homework ahead of time is really important. So I hope all this was helpful for you. Frankly, I have this conversation a lot with new clients, and now honestly, I'm just going to have you guys listen to this podcast. But this is what I did when I was first breaking into the market, and I've done this again, looking for property in other areas. I've literally done this exact same playbook, and it works every time for me. And a lot of my other clients, it's worked for as well because they've come to realize what areas they want to be in, what type of property they want, what they can afford, and then eventually they kind of zero in on something, and then we go get it. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions about any of this, you could DM me on Instagram at Pete Does Real Estate. You could email me at info@tvdhousing.com. You could check out our website and, that's, to get the spelling correct. There's lots of ways to find me. And I'm going to keep giving you guys, great real estate investing tips like this and continue to help you guys become better investors.
Thanks for listening to the New Jersey Real Estate Investor Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Until next time.